My guest, August night, I apologize, August night is Emma Powell, straight from Salt Lake City. I would noticed a few things about Emma, right? She is a mother of six, right? Homeschooling her children. In addition to that, she used to play rugby, and she's a owner of a rugby team in Salt Lake City in Utah, right? She's also a host of a podcast, and she also is the founder and owner of Highrise Group Capital. Emma has a lot going on, right? But tonight she's going to talk to us about networking and how when you network to find your ideal investor, avatar. She's going to teach us, give us a secret sauce tonight. All right. So Emma, without further ado, thank you very much for taking time from your family, right? And appreciate you coming on tonight. And the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So my kids are downstairs cleaning the living room and setting up the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. So it's a little easier as they get older. I don't know how much of this I could have done when they were really, really little, but I think kind of what I've learned from having a lot of kids and what I've learned from homeschooling those kids, and also my husband and I are both from large families, it directly ties into our ability to network in our business, because in a way it forces you to learn how to be efficient. It forces you to learn how to get along and communicate with anybody. You can't fire any of your kids, can't fire your siblings, unless there's some really severe relationship problems going on. You have to figure out how to make it work, how to talk to a variety of people, how to communicate when things are tense, and again, the efficiencies. So the way that we homeschool, again, it directly ties back into why I even have time to do this at all in the first place, and why I'm able to talk to people the way that I do. Because one thing I'm really good at is just hooking people up with resources, and then I kind of let them at it. I try to live by example and show, like, we're doing some cool stuff. If you want to learn to do some cool stuff with me, or you have something to teach me that you're doing cool, let's all collaborate, let's do it. But just pointing people in the direction of resources, putting the resources around and make it really, really easy to get at the information, and then use the accountability of the social unit to make sure that some action is taken. And so the way that we homeschool is just like that. I put the resources around them. They know how to get what they need. And we don't do whiteboard, sit down workbooks or any of that kind of stuff. I feel like life is extremely educational if you go at it with the right perspective and the right point of view. And I'll just give a short example and tie it back to what we're doing. So when I first started homeschooling, I was really just struggling with how much time do I want to let them watch TV? How much time can they play video games? How much time should I require them to be reading or outside playing? And some of the other parents were complaining about SpongeBob, and they didn't want their kids watching SpongeBob because they thought that it was just inane and wouldn't let them watch it. I said, there's nothing wrong with it from a morality standpoint. So I didn't really understand why there were parents not allowing their kids to watch a children's TV show. So I sat down with my kids one day and I watched some SpongeBob. And afterwards, we had a fantastic discussion as the credits were going up. I said, look at all these names, all these people. Do you think those are kids, or do you think those are adults? And they said, those are adults. And I said, so why are so many adults working on a kid show? You think they just are volunteering? And they're like, no, it's their job. They get paid. I said, look how many families this show is feeding. And let's talk about this from a business perspective. So we're talking about how they make money from commercials, how they make money from merchandising, just the whole business surrounding SpongeBob was a great conversation. And it just kept going. And then we were talking about the art of storytelling, the art of using humor to tell a story, the art of having an arc, a hero, all of these storytelling characteristics. And then we just talked about art and graphic design and color choices and why they chose the animation style, all of the style decisions that they had made in the show for what they wanted to go for. And I stopped at the end when the conversation was petering out. And I said, see, SpongeBob, you learned a lot from watching SpongeBob today. And we were talking about that specific episode and the storyline and all of those things. And it came back in. And that's when I really had the turning point in my homeschooling career, my homeschooling journey, where I felt like I don't need to put all of this onto my kids and put information into them. We just have to have a rich source of information around them. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. We don't get to choose how they play. We don't get to choose how they learn or what's important to them. And that's the same way I am with real estate investing with my partners and with my limited partners. I don't have a lot of limited partners. I'm actually much better raising capital from joint venture partners, but just being able to say, like, here are the resources. And so we I guess about a year and a half ago, we created an investing club because I was hearing a lot of frustration in the investing community with people who are wanting to get in on investing and they didn't know how. And it's not because the information isn't out there. I mean, you can go buy an accountability course, a group of some sort. You can watch tons of hours of videos on YouTube. There are books on Amazon, Audible. The information is out there and it's free. I just found people were frustrated because they would go take a course or something or sign up for, especially like an expensive mastermind. 2-3 years later, they still hadn't done a deal. And so it wasn't just a matter of putting information around them. It was a matter of putting together a group of people who were able to bounce ideas off of each other, to underwrite these deals together, to figure out, like, do we want to invest in this deal? And because we are a group and we have a pool of cash, we have to put our own cash in for SEC reasons, right? But we put our own cash in, and then we use that pool to go negotiate with those operators for better terms and better access. So we're able to get in there and learn hands-on because we're actually doing a deal. And we have non-controlling general partner shares where we're not the managing partners. We're not part of the executives, but we're in there doing auditing. We're helping out with all those tasks that free up the operators to really focus on the deal itself, and because we're taking over some admin stuff, and we're also able to, like I said, audit, find holes, and have suggestions of, like, hey, we tried this, we tried that. Having meetings, sitting in on the asset management meetings, having access to the documents before it's delivered to limited partners. And for us, that's a very similar thing. Put the information around people, make sure they're surrounded by great information. But just like my kids probably wouldn't have gotten anything out of that SpongeBob episode other than just think it's funny and fun, until I sat down with them and we just talked about every aspect. We wanted to dissect it as much as we possibly could and squeeze every little drop of education out of it. That's what we do at the club. We just get deals and we just tear them apart and decide if this is something we like. The members of the Meetup group will go form an investing club. Sometimes I'm in it, sometimes I'm not, because you have to invest your own money. Sometimes I don't have any because I'm already invested in something else. And so they'll just go form a club on TribeVest. And we have some documents and things like that that help to streamline that process, and people then off to the races and taking action. And so that's part of networking, is recognizing that people just need to be pointed in the right direction and be given an opportunity to take action. And so when we're raising capital from limited partners or joint venture partners, it's the same thing. They want to invest in real estate. They kind of think, and they're looking, they don't know how to figure out if the deal is good or not. They're doing it on their own. They're not sure if they're doing it right. And then it's time to jump in the portal and actually fill out documents and wire cash. And they're like, I don't really know how to use this. And it's a lot of money for me to feel confused and all that. So creating a safe place where they can learn, become educated, and then feel comfortable throwing some cash at a deal, I feel like that's really enhanced in the club. And so we can raise limited partner capital as club members if we want to. We just can't get paid for it. But let's say we're going to bring in $1 million and we only put in $650 between the club members. Because we are members, bona fide members of the general partnership, we can go raise some incidental capital. So maybe if we only raise $650, we'll go out and raise the other $350 from limited partner capital, because we need that bargaining power. And we want to help out and be like, hey, we said we'd bring in $1 million, and if we don't, we can't close. And so we can raise limited partner capital. We do struggle with it because people that are in the club tend to either be beginners, or people like me who struggle with it. If I could go raise $1 million from LPs by myself, I may have just done that. But because I couldn't do it, the club was born out of that struggle of mine. Like, how am I going to be able to get in these bigger deals and bring together more cash? I have so many people saying they have cash and they want to invest in deals, but they don't want to be limited partners. They want to be more hands-on than that and learn. So we had to create a structure that would facilitate that as much as possible. So do we have any questions on any of that so far? And I have some slides to share on just networking and how to find the right people.
No hands.
All right. I'm pulling this up. If you have a question, just holler it out while I'm grabbing the screen.
Matt,
Is TriVest a platform for creating a JV group or something?
Correct.
that?
It's like a corporate governance website where they form your LLC for you. They've got some templates for operating agreements, and you fill in the parameters of how your investing group works, and you can vote on things, because it's like if it's a 51% or unanimous vote, then they'll set it up for you. They handle our bank account, so they set up the bank account. They have an FDIC
pay for things
insured account.
unprompted. You don't have
Uh-oh.
to ask me to pay for
Wait,
shit.
is
If we
that
go for
me?
dinner, I'll get my wallet out, pay at the end.
Is that me or?
Go ahead, Emma. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm like, I don't think I have any videos open. Anyway, so yes, TribeVest is a third-party platform that we use, and because it's a smaller, like a startup, they've been very open and receptive to feature requests from us and figuring out like how are we using the platform, and so they can make it more useful for us. There's another group that uses them pretty extensively. If you're familiar with left field investors, they only do limited partner. So those who are interested in doing a joint venture will come join our group. And if we have people that are like, I did a couple of these club deals and this just really isn't for me, I just want to go to be a limited partner, they can still invest through us, or they can go invest through left field, because like I said, left field does limited partner only, but they were using the same platform to contribute together. And the reason that left field is doing it, they could individually invest as limited partners, and they're not using their pool to collectively bargain, but I think they are now. Like, they are using that pool of limited partners to come in and say, like, we want a better pref. They don't want any membership or ownership, like general partner shares, like we're asking for, because we want, like I said, we want to protect our investment and be more involved. They'll just use it as basically just go in there and get a higher preferred return, typically. So that's how we're using TribeVest, and it wouldn't replace something like Syndication Pro or InvestNext. It's an investor management tool where you're raising capital and helping investors get through that process. We will still use the portal of whichever operator we're working with. If it's AppFolio or InvestNext or Syndication Pro, they'll set up a co-sponsor portal for us, and then we will walk people through that deal, through that network. And then the club itself is what's using TribeVest. So every deal we do is a different legal entity, different club. Okay, so here's an example of education. It's stuff you just put out there. So you've got stuff on your social media, you've written an ebook, you've got videos that you've done, little shorts and funny stuff. I've got this beginner series right here that I did last summer, I believe it was in July, where once a week, people got together who were like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And we would just put it up on a Zoom and just start talking, like how to read a pitch deck, how to read a spreadsheet. So this is free and it's out there. They're long, right? They're over an hour each, but I recommend people starting out in this, whether they're limited partner or an aspiring syndicator, spend roughly 10 hours just really educating themselves on the nitty gritty of what's going on. And I joke, like, here are your first 4 hours. You can get through this, and you can certainly play it at 2x if you can still understand what's going on. So putting the information out there, it's really important to understand who you're putting this information out there for. Like, this particular series is for beginners, but beginners are not necessarily my avatar for my limited partners. And so this doesn't really fit with who I would really like to do business with. And so I had to come back over into, can you guys see the screen? Did it change the slideshow?
Mm-hmm. Your net worth, your net worth.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I have this slide here as kind of a credibility slide where this is my background, this is what I did, and you can see the way that I wrote this had my ideal investor in mind. Like, you can tell here, while I try to look as impressive as possible, but it's boring, this kind of stuff. So that down to earth kind of language where people might think it's funny, or at least they think it's authentic, because this is authentic. This is me, right? And so it's talking about, like, now for the credentials part, blah, blah, blah. So it's about you. It's about them. You only care who I am if I'm going to help you build your dreams. And so I want to inspire that, like, we can get passive income. I can show you how I can help. It's not about how awesome I am or what I know or any of that. It's about you and your journey. And so this is why it's so important to be talking to your investor avatar, because everything you write and everything you put out, they should be seeing themselves in it, because only people who are going to be drawn to that authentic you are going to reach out to you. If somebody were to look at this, they're like, oh, wow, this is kind of unprofessional. She's like cracking jokes in here or whatever. And I don't know. I just can't really trust somebody like that with my money. They're going to move on. And I'm okay with that. You have to be okay with that. You have to be yourself, and whatever yourself is like will attract people who are either like you or at least appreciate that about you. And if you're trying to be somebody different, then your people are going to see through it. And an example, I went to a conference one time, and there was a man giving a talk, and he was wearing like a trucker hat and long scruffy hair and unshaven, an old t-shirt, tattoos all over him. And he was talking about how he thought he had to turn into this formal, stiff, suit wearing, fiduciary duty type of guy, but it wasn't authentic and it wasn't working for him. And he says, now like people who want to get into commercial real estate and they see that I'm covered with tattoos are drawn to that because like they got a couple, right? And if you are a stuffy suit wearing kind of person, you're not going to want to do business with me. And that's okay, because tattoo bikers aren't going to want to do business with the stuffy suit guys. So there need to be a diverse representation of what's going on so that we can make this type of investing more accessible to a more diverse group of people. And during the time that this talk was going on, I was standing in the back networking with a young man who was dressed to the nines, the shiny suit, the pocket square, the shiny pointy toe shoe. Like, he looked amazing. His haircut, you could tell it was just freshly done, shaved, like everything, just a beautiful, beautiful polished appearance. And I asked him about it because he was definitely the nicest dressed guy in the room. And he says, I like dressing like this. It makes me feel professional. It makes me feel like I'm going to go out there and kill it. It's like putting on my armor, my uniform. And he says, I just feel like $1 million when I'm dressed like this. I'm like, that is so him. Like, it fits him so well. And he's going after completely different, basically demographic or type of person than the speaker is going after. So think to yourself first, like, how authentic am I? And what is it that I'm conveying? And so I did an example here where I kind of showed where the genesis of this message was from. So I'm kind of highlighting some of the silly stuff where I'm just keeping it real, right? I made my own logo in a program called Logo Maker. I don't have my own website. I don't have a great logo. Don't let that hold you back. There are plenty of simple free tools. You can upgrade this at any time. Like, my website needs redone. I just slapped something up there, Google Sites, just to get it going. A blue house logo like everybody else, right? And just tried to personalize it a little bit with some personality. It's still pretty bland. I'm still working on reiterating on that, but it was just, you just have to get started. You just have to take action. Imperfect action is better than analysis any day. So this selfie headshot here, my kids still tease me about this because it's just in the hallway of our house. And it was after church one Sunday. I'm like, I'm looking pretty cute today. I'm going to take myself a headshot. So I got out my little selfie stick that I never use and got me a headshot. I probably had 30 of these before I found one that I liked. It took me about a half hour. And then after that, I was over getting a passport photo a couple months later, and he was taking it on his phone instead of using the passport camera. And I said, hey, can you airdrop me some of these? And so I like smiled and looked cute. No, like a passport photo, right? Because he had a beautiful white background, it was well lit, and he airdropped me basically something, and he took at my passport photos. And I paid $13 for the passport photos, and then he airdropped me that one for free. Like, just get a headshot, get a logo, go to Google Sites, drag and drop, or Wix or whatever, get yourself a website and just get started and write to your ideal client. My ideal client is somebody who doesn't take themselves too seriously and who is willing to do research until they're about 80% comfortable and then take a leap. And so I'll kind of share where that originated right here. I hired a sales coach when I very first got into real estate because I felt like I was too afraid to talk to people, and I was too afraid to reach out and do what needed to get done to get deals. I was doing some wholesaling at the time, even though I knew it wasn't my long-term plan. I was just trying to get some capital up together so I could start investing in some other stuff. And what she taught me was, when you take a personality test, how many of you have taken these where you get a color assigned to you? So everybody had one of these. How many of you had in any one color, absolutely 0 in one color? Nobody ever in the history of personality tests has ever taken one and gotten 0 in any of the colors. Now, we are predominantly a certain color, like I'm predominantly red. And I, in many years of being a mom and having kids and mellowing out and chilling out, I still consistently test out red. I'm ambitious. I'm a long-term planner. I'm opinionated. I'm not a status seeker with like cars and clothes and houses and stuff, but I'm a status seeker for like respect. I'm a status seeker for people being happy to see me when I walk into a room, people having questions. I love to teach. And so you can't really be a teacher unless people want to be a student. And so that's my status seeking. Now, probably my lowest on this is this, which is typical for reds. I'm really not emotional. I'm not a relationship seeker, but my blue was actually lowest, but my colors weren't that far apart. Green and blue were pretty similar, and then yellow. So I'm really dominant red, and then these other 3 are kind of even. And so what she taught me here is you talk to them using their dominant personality. And my nephew was working for me at the time, and he said, well, I feel like that's totally fake because he's a red as well. He's like, I'm talking to them, I'm trying to be all touchy-feely and empathy, and and that's just totally fake. I feel like I'm an actor. And she said, it's not fake. She said, did you test 0 for blue? You tested, with 25 points or whatever in blue. She said, just stop and listen to that person. Figure out what their dominant color is or their dominant personality traits are. Are they status driven, like opinionated, ambitious? Are they fun seekers? Are they super logical, analytical, or are they emotional and they want to have an emotional connection? If you can figure out those 4 types, then you can immediately start talking to them in their language. So you have to tap into that part of yourself that matches up. Even if it's your least dominant characteristic, it's there. You have it in you. And so if I'm talking to somebody and they start grilling me on numbers, they want every nitty gritty, and I'm just like, it's on page 48 of the pitch deck. That's really not going to go over well with somebody who's super analytical that way. Now, I do have some boundaries where I won't allow people to just grill me to see if they can catch me up in a mistake, or she doesn't have every photographic memory part of this thing. I'm not a coder, or an engineer, and hopefully they're not expecting that out of me, but I need to be familiar enough with my deal that I can really talk to them on that spreadsheet type of language. If you're refusing to learn how to do spreadsheets, then you're probably in the wrong business, or you need to change your mindset. Everybody needs to be able to dive into those spreadsheets and create at least simple ones and read up to complex ones. And the reason why is because we are predominantly a finance business. We are selling real estate units, rental units, but we are a finance driven business, and there is a lot of financial stuff that goes on. So if you can't talk to a green person because you don't know what you're talking about, do you think they're going to invest with you? Suck it up and learn the financial part of this business. It is the business model. It is the business model. So that's what I do when I'm talking to a green. I make sure I'm comfortable enough. And then you always have the out. If they ask you a question that you don't know the answer to, say, I know that all of the stats are on page 48 of the pitch deck. And we also have a webinar. Let me make sure I send that to you because we have all those answered. And let me get with my financial manager. I want to make sure I'm telling you the right thing. So let's schedule a follow-up so that we can go over all those questions. Another thing I can do with people who are asking too many nitty-gritty questions is they'll send me an email and have like 10 points. And we've all seen this before, right? I'll just send them a voice memo because it's too much for me to sit there and type it all out. And so I'll just talk about it, or I will forward it to my financial manager and he'll answer all the questions. So you do have options there if this is not your strong suit, but you should not shy away from it, completely defer it onto other people. You need to be able to tap into that part of yourself that needs to know that you're investing or selling a good deal. Like, how did you decide to do the deal? Is it just because you liked the guy or, thought he was trustworthy? That would make it a blue decision. So if somebody is really just asking tons of questions about the team and their credibility, they might be green, but more likely it's this because they understand the people running it are more important than the deal itself. So you tap into that part of yourself and talk to them. So we've got a deal in North Carolina right now that is a vacation rental where we're doing beach, short-term luxury homes. So this is the project summary, and this is kind of written for more of the green personality type, but then you have this for the more emotional blue personality type. And then everybody who invests in this deal gets 1 week at the house, excluding some high traffic times for every $100,000 invested. And this is for the yellow who wants to have fun. They're just out to look a good time. So I have features of this deal that I can draw out to talk to that particular investor's interests. And if they're looking for one thing versus another thing, I'm always going to mention, even to the green guy, that we've got this yellow benefit, because even green guys like to go on beach vacations, right? We make sure that's there, but we're really going to focus on what's important to them. We're going to talk to them. And that flies directly in the face of finding your avatar, right? Because if you really found your avatar, then you should be able to just talk to that person in that color all the time, because that's all you're looking for. My avatar is not a single color. Yours might be. And so if you decide that you're a spreadsheet kind of person and you only really want to talk to green people, then you can make that green person your avatar, and you can just have these conversations all day long, or vice versa. Red would be like, hey, don't you want an awesome vacation in this luxury rental, and how cool it would be to send photos of this thing they've invested in. It's just basically about how cool it is that they're doing this. This has really good returns. You can beat the pants off of the returns from what your friends are investing in. Like, that's how you talk to a red. It sounds really lame, especially being a red. I hate to say that, because it makes me sound like I'm just status driven, and it's not necessarily true. Each one of these personality types is also going to have a dysfunctional version of themselves. So you want to talk to the functional version. So if you're talking to a red about how much better than their friends they're going to be and all that, do you really want to work with a person who's dysfunctional? A dysfunctional yellow would be someone who's just irresponsible and they can't get anything done because they're always out partying. And a blue dysfunctional event is they believe anything anybody tells them, and they will not do things unless they really feel a personal connection with somebody. And so they might miss out on a lot of things because, if they're just not feeling it, right? The dysfunctional green is they might struggle with relationships, and they my dad had autism, and it was it was real tough. He's like, well, I don't celebrate my birthday. Why do you want a birthday? That kind of thing is a big pitfall in the dysfunctional green. And so make sure you're talking to the functional side of them, because no red wants to admit that they're status driven. We really don't. And so you want to talk to our part where it's cool and it's fun, and we're going to get to hang out with cool people and really learn from each other, and ambitious people. That's really what you want to talk to, is the functional part of each of those. So any questions on that so far? Okay, I'm going to switch over to,
I got a
go for it.
On my mute button. Thank you for that.
Oh,
So now, when you have the colors, right? When you're talking to somebody, what kind of conversation you having with them to draw out to find out what they're doing and what color they are?
What are you looking for? You need to be identifying it by the way they dress, by the way they walk, and the first couple sentences that come out of their mouths. Now, that sounds really judgmental because we are all the colors, but what you're looking for is the dominant color, and you're going to misread it sometimes, and you should be prepared to pivot if you get it wrong. But you need to be able to start talking to them, and you're kind of testing it out. And if they give you an indication that that's not quite who you're dealing with, that you need to be able to pivot quickly. A red person is somebody who walks in and they got the best hair in the room. Okay. They have their haircut is snatched, right? They might have really nice tennis shoes. That I look at the shoes and the hair, because shoes and hair are really obvious to tell if they spent money on it or not. So they're spending money on things. I don't particularly go for the ones that are super flashy with the watch and the swagger like that. That to me, that personally, that's kind of a turn off, because I'm not a status seeker after clothes and cars and houses and stuff. And so if somebody is status seeking through that stuff, I tend to be like, I don't care about that stuff. And I try to avoid working with difficult people, high maintenance people. So green, who's just going to grill me about all the numbers, or a red, who's going to be like, are you cool enough for me to hang out with? Like, are you cool enough to even talk to me? Like, yeah, I don't want the dysfunctional version. A blue is going to come in and they're going to ask you lots of personal questions and are really going to want to get to know you. They might not even talk about themselves very much. They tend to be more introverted, and they tend to be less assertive. You're not going to find many narcissists in that blue group. However, narcissists can easily mimic the blue group. That's probably the most common one that you would see a narcissist in, where you can't tell because they're super charming. They're super concerned about you. They're just really making you feel like a zillion bucks, right? That's how it goes at first, right? Until you get into the abusive part of the relationship. So red people can be narcissistic as well. I tend to want to avoid narcissists because it's more about them, and I want to make it about them, right? But I want it to be a team. And so I get to choose who I work with, right? I don't get to choose who my kids are. I don't get to choose who my family are. But because I've learned how to make the most of who we're with, I then get to graduate the freedom to choose who I want to work with. A yellow person is going to come in. Usually they're dressed really nice, fun clothes, bright colors, huge smiles. Women tend to wear more makeup. Men will walk in wearing like a sports themed gear, like they're just cool. They're just fun. They're having a good time. Right. If they're dressed really, really nice, they might be like a red, yellow combo, because it's someone who's status seeking and he has a shiny suit, right? But he's also wanting to have fun. The green guy is, again, more introverted, like the blue. They're going to have like some sort of a branded polo from their job, their shoes are going to be functional. They're not going to be loud and flashy about anything. And when they start talking, they're going to go straight to the analytical questions about the numbers, questions about the deal. They don't really want to get to know you or ask you a zillion questions about yourself. And when you ask them questions about themselves, they are very uncomfortable. Give them a compliment. You'll see blues and greens will shy away from compliments. They can't really, blues will give a lot of compliments, but sometimes they can't take them. Greens can't do either. They can neither give nor receive. Reds often can't give compliments, but boy, can they receive them. Right. So complimenting people on what they're wearing, complimenting people, like you'll learn a lot about them by talking to them. And this is in person. And so if you imagine yourself doing this in person, then imagine what that person's like, your hypothetical version. And that's the person you're writing your web copy to when you're shooting a video, because your website should have like a little 30-second video on the front page that talks about you, what you're doing, but like I said, talks about them, right? What you're doing, how that's going to help them. So you're just always talking and writing to that person. And like I said, that YouTube channel is a good example of where I didn't really follow that advice, because I had some beginners asking me for some stuff. So I created some content around it. But this other stuff right here, these videos where I'm interviewing people and they're talking about stuff, deeply. That's more of my ideal avatar. Tons of information. They're gonna go through it. They love to learn. They'll totally binge on this kind of stuff, and then they'll reach out and they're like 90% of the way there. They just need to make sure that you're not a scammer, or that they, the gut check, or they connect with you. So most of these other videos are my ideal, but this one is actually the most popular because beginners are looking for these types of resources. But I would say that's definitely like off brand, out of scope for me. My club tends to attract more beginners. And so you can have a dominant avatar and a sub avatar. So I would say my dominant, the person I'm really after, is a limited partner, is more about this kind of stuff. And then my dominant avatar for the club, which would be my secondary, is somebody who's more of a frustrated beginner. So think to yourself, like, what am I looking for? Right. And it can evolve and it can change as your business changes, but you should always be asking yourself, who is this person? Am I talking to this person? And if the person is evolving and changing as your business evolves and change, like, make sure that you know who that person is and you're talking to it, even if it's not the same person that you started out with. So the example that I was telling at the beginning of the call before everybody came in, we were talking about why I invested in the rugby team. I was just getting into real estate. I had tried to get a job with the team and the league when I first moved to Salt Lake City. Neither of them had the budget. They didn't really have a need on the staff. I was working for the Austin rugby team at the time, and they had just gotten to the beginning of their first season and said that they needed someone local because I had moved over the winter. And so I was kind of like, well, I guess I'll just go invest in the team instead. And it was expensive. And my financial advisor at the time was like, what are you doing? And I said, well, it's a fun investment that I want to do for myself. I don't do startups or that kind of stuff. I only have a few of those. And I said, mostly it's because I want to be able to network with high net worth individuals in this area because I'm new to the area and I'm in becoming a real estate investor and I want to talk to people who are well connected. So I invested in the rugby team in that first season. We got like owners box seats and VIP seats. We could be in and out of the owner's box, the VIP seats. We've got VIP parties and catered at the field, and then outside parties. They would throw parties every once in a while, like Top Golf or something, and invite all of the investors. We got to basically hobnob really with all the other owners, with the managers, the athletes. And I found out very, very quickly at the games, I didn't actually want to talk to any of the other owners. I wanted to watch the game. And so I tried a couple of times bringing some potential investors to the game, especially that first year when I still had like really good seats, because that was like part of our enrollment. Our subscription package was a year of super nice access. And then I didn't even want to like tell them the basic rules of rugby. I would like tell them before the game started. And then after the match was underway, I'd be like, I'm watching the game, right? It's like, it's like, wait, this is not working at all. So my avatar that I originally went after was a complete failure because it wasn't working. It wasn't working. And so I went over several iterations after that. I was like, okay, well, I know a lot of like stay-at-home moms who have been saving up a lot of money. Maybe their husband's working a great job and he's getting like some good bonuses, or he's a high income earner, but she's like a lady who lunches, right? And they've got this stash of cash and she's trying to figure out what to do with it. Cause he's like, babe, go invest this in something, start a business, whatever. And she is kind of feeling like, oh, I don't really know. Cause I knew a lot of women like this. And then I started changing that to my avatar because I could really relate to that as a stay-at-home mom and just trying to find my way in the business world and all that. And then I quickly realized like I didn't really like hanging out with them. There was a lot of lack of self-confidence. And I felt like I was constantly being like, you can do this. Yeah, you can definitely learn about this and you can definitely invest in this. And they just weren't close enough to being converted, right? They just had a long road to go. It's kind of like when people say, oh, I used to be an engineer and I'll just go with my engineering buddies and raise money for my engineering friends, but they know nothing about real estate, right? So your avatar isn't just former engineers. Your avatar needs to be former engineers that have given you some indication that they're interested in real estate. You don't even have to know anybody like that. You just have to say like, it's a former engineer who has something on their Facebook profile or says that, or I meet them at a conference or something that they are already have one foot in the door on this real estate thing. So I don't have to convince them how cool real estate is. That could be an avatar. Right? So if you try former engineers and none of them know anything about real estate, you might realize that that's not working and you need to pivot. So with the women, I was like, and I'm not really even spending a lot of time with this particular type of person anymore since we moved and I was more in an entrepreneurial crowd. So then I went after real estate entrepreneurs and that was moderately successful. Most of them wanted to be joint venture partners and that's where the club was born. And so that's where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm attracting this particular kind of person over and over and over again. And I don't know what to do with them because I have a lot of them in my network and I've got no way to help them or help myself. We're just friends. Honestly, we're like friends who like to talk about business. So the club came out of trying to find something that would serve that group that I was naturally attracting. So it can go backwards, like look at your network and say, who am I already networking with? Who am I already connected to? Who am I already friends with? And what does that avatar look like? So what I ended up doing in the end was going through like the type of person that I wanted to hang out with. Who is it that I want not hang out with as a friend? Who is it that I want to do business with? And so I started coming up with personality traits, which came out of this. I want someone who's decisive. I want somebody who is an avid learner, lifelong learner, seeking after learning. And I want somebody who asks questions, but they are not going to grill me because they have access to the information. They'll go back and watch the webinar. They'll go back and read the pitch deck. And if they have questions, I'm happy to talk to them, but I'm not going to put up with people trying to catch me out, really, really needy. And not to say I'll never work with a person like that, but that's certainly not my avatar. That's certainly not my ideal investor, right? And if you spend most of your time talking to that ideal investor hypothetically, that's eventually the kind of person you'll start to draw in. All right. Do we have some time? I had some tips and tricks I wanted to go over on how to follow up with your network.
Sure, your time. Go ahead.
All right. So I'm just going to go through some technical stuff because my husband's an IT guy and he gets real irritated that I'm not very good with my back end systems, fundamentals and systems. So, and I'm not naturally organized. When I'm doing like high level long-term planning, I lose sight of the day-to-day details. I'm fine if I'm like in an admin job. You know what I mean? Or when that's what I'm focused on. When I get way out here, shifting between way out here and the day-to-day organization tasks is really challenging for me. And so these were some tricks that I put together as my husband was trying to help me become more organized. And these things have basically made me from completely dysfunctional into getting along. I still have a lot of work to go and a long way to go with this. But I think that's maybe why it might be even more valuable, is because I totally get it that people don't follow up. If you're the person who follows up, that's your edge. Do things that people are unwilling to do that maybe are not that big of a deal for you or that are extremely, extremely important. I'm not that good at following up. I don't really like it, but because I'm really trying hard to put some effort into it, it gets me, every time I follow up, I get traction. I should do it more. So these are the things that I use to try and simplify that process so I'll actually do it. So the first thing is just take action. You don't need a fancy CRM. You don't need to have an inbox organizer. You don't need a VA. You don't need, you're just starting out. Just get a piece of paper. So Neil Bawa taught me this trick at a conference where he said he just carries around a notebook just like this, and he has people write their name and address on it in all caps so he doesn't have problems reading their handwriting, put their phone number and their email address, and he just passes it around. And then he gets home and he actually enters it into like a spreadsheet or something. And so just start where you are with the tools that you have. Don't get too caught up that you don't have a fancy logo website. Just show up with a piece of paper and start taking notes on the people that you want to follow up with. And then actually, you got to actually do it. Like set up phone calls, text everyone. You don't have ringless voicemail yet. You don't have bulk texting. You don't have any of these tools that you hear. Like Neil Bawa could have completely overwhelmed me because he has like 34 different microservices subscriptions that he uses. He has dozens of VAs. Like his systems are really, really dialed in. But instead of getting overwhelmed with all the stuff that he was telling me, I picked up the notebook trick. I'm like, you know what? He uses a notebook when he shows up at a meetup. I'm just going to start there. So that's where I started. And that's probably where you should start. Show up at events, online or in person, and just start writing stuff down. Most of us don't write things down. Okay, here's my favorite one. And I use this all the time. And this is not even something I have to force myself to do. So if you have an iPhone, I have an iPhone. I'm not that good at doing it on Android, but I just type in a little code and then it automatically lengthens out. So if I want to say, hey, you could set up an appointment with me on my calendar, I type in CHRG, which is Calendar Highrise Group, and that it replaces with that link. So when I'm talking to somebody in a Zoom, when I need to text somebody, even if I'm talking to them, here, let me text you a link. And some of them are long, like my business card is long. I've got links to things that I think would be interesting, like join my Facebook group, Facebook investing group. I type in YT28 for my YouTube channel. I type in IGPIA for my Instagram, so I've got all these little text shortcuts. This will save you a ton of time. And the more time you save, the less money you're going to spend on virtual assistants, because most people, when they get to this point and they can't keep up, would be like, oh, I need to hire a VA or another VA. I'm not saying don't hire a VA, and I'm not saying don't hire help. I'm just saying get as efficient as you can, because payroll will be your number one expense on a property, and it's your number one expense in your business. So keep payroll to a minimum by being more efficient. So this is definitely one I make use of every day, multiple times a day for years. And if you looked at my list, it's got probably 100 different texts, different little quote things. And every once in a while I have to go in there and look at it again and remind myself what's in there. I'm like, oh, that's right. I've been long typing that. I forgot. I already put that in there. Just remind myself what's in there and start making better use of it. So I review it like every couple of months, the list. Customer relationship manager. Again, something that people totally overthink. Like HubSpot is a great example of a free one, but you have to have a domain name to go with it. So if you haven't bought your GoDaddy, you can't even sign up for a HubSpot account. And so you'll run into these kinds of problems, right? And so you just go back to the good old spreadsheet. Once you get your domain name, maybe you can import your stuff in a HubSpot. If you're trying to do email marketing, MailChimp is free. It's not going to get you very far. It gets real expensive when you hit 2,000 people in your database. and it's not really as functional as you might think, even for the paid tiers. So you're going to want to switch over to like Active Campaign. I did a poll recently if you're going to use ConvertKit or Click Convert and I don't know, ClickUp or Active Campaign. Active Campaign, hands down, not a single person voted for any other platform. Active Campaign over and over and over and over. So it's like $10 a month for your first 500 users. So if you have any budget at all, just start on Active Campaign. Just save yourself some trouble and just do it now, right? HubSpot is free. I know Rod Cleef uses HubSpot. And I do make heavy use of calendars, emails, and spreadsheets. I also have something, let me see if I can show you this on my phone, a form that I have people fill out when I meet them that I have on the home button on my phone. Can you see that? That purple one right there. If I tap on that, it opens up a contact information. Tell me if you can see that. Put it behind me. Contact information where either they can fill it out or I can fill it out. And so this is like when people hand me their business card, I'll just pop this open and I'll just manually type it in, or I'll hand them my phone and let them type it in. Or if it's on a notebook paper, because maybe it's crowded and it's just happening too fast, right? I can then take my notebook paper, and if I type it in here directly, it automatically uploads it to a Google Sheet for me. And if there are a lot of people and I'm trying to, somebody's using this and somebody else, like if you're in a crowd of people, right? And you're all exchanging contact information, I have a little QR code as my graphic at the top. I just made this in Canva. And they can easily take a picture of that QR code and it will pop up the same thing on their own phone. So that's something that I do to save me some time. And also I have a QR code on lock screen on my phone. So when we're at an event, they can just take a picture of my lock screen instead of a business card. They can QR code it to the contact page on my website or the form. You can have it go wherever you want. You can go in and program that QR code to go to any link that you choose. So those little efficiency tips, I'm in bad shape even with them, honestly. Like I'm a wreck. And so if I didn't have these, I don't know what I'd be doing. I would be out of business. Google, just Gmail has a ton of tools. If you are in an email, this is our Salt Lake RIA, you just say create event and it automatically tries to find the things in the email to add to your calendar. So it tries to find the time, day of the week, whatever, and it'll title the event like the same as the title of the email. If you go over here and you click on the sidebar, you can open up these native tools, which are like the calendar, your tasks app, Google Keep, things like that. And you can add functionality like Trello, which is a task management software, Slack, which I use very heavily. So if I want to add this to Slack for whatever reason, I want to post a message or forward it to my Slack group, I just click that. And then you can add more by clicking that plus sign. And you can just browse the library, and any utility or any little functional integration that you use should be able to pop up there. And your Gmail you'll save a ton of time in there because then you're not switching back and forth to your calendar and all that. So again, my inbox is a mess, and this thing kind of saves me. I'm still limping along without an assistant. So all right. This one I really like because you get something and you're like, oh, okay, I need to actually bring something to this event, like get your business cards printed before this event or whatever. You can actually just click on add a task, and then you have tasks over in your right side pane. If you're not the kind of person who's going to write things down, you really need to start making use of this kind of stuff and keeping a task. You can use the Trello website. I really like that. It's free, super easy to use, drag and drop, or Google Tasks, either way. Any questions?
I just want to say I don't feel bad because I'm a mess right now. Thank you for sharing that.
People raising capital are typically not greens. Green people don't tend to struggle with this stuff. Or they've had it like burned into them. My husband is not naturally green, but he's turned into a green over years and years of being an IT guy. So he's better at this stuff than I am. But
I found out what color I am.
Yeah.
I'm very, you've had my interest with this the whole time. Where's the test?
The colors?
Yes.
Okay. Are you relationship driven? Are you fun driven? Are you like cool driven, or are you numbers driven?
Oh man, I want to say that I'm a little bit of all of them, but I would say most of all, probably numbers.
Okay. So you're then a green. You're the spreadsheet guy. Like like the autistic lawyer.
Yes, that sounds like me. I'm pretty sure I'm autistic. Like I'm 99.9% sure, just because of the things that I do and say. Sometimes I look around, I'm like, I don't think anybody else is doing that.
Yeah, I do. I feel you. You can have
Have you
autistic
ever
Reds
heard of?
too.
Have you ever heard of? I don't. You were talking about business cards and stuff, and I've taken a lot of notes. You've given me a lot of value for this hour so far. But there's an app that I was using a while ago when I was selling cars. I can't remember the name. I gotta find it, but it's a QR code business card thing. You basically write up a business card, and you can just give somebody a QR code to scan, and it'll plug in all their information, all your information.
Yes. Yeah, and I have that. And I used it for a while, but I found that the custom QRs, I like them better.
Okay.
Because
fair enough.
When somebody hands me a business card, my business card scanners, they weren't that great. And so I was having to go in and manually fix them, depending on some cards scan great, some don't. So having the form is faster because they could always just hand me their business card and I can keep it, or I could take a picture of it or scan it. And if it doesn't scan right, I just fill out the form. So the business card scanning, I didn't put that on here because personally, it hasn't really worked that well for me. And I don't know a lot of people actually using it. There's a lot missing there.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you mind? Does anybody mind? I'm not trying to take the floor from anybody or take up time.
No, we're on extra time now.
Okay, cool. Because I got nowhere to be. I'm about to make dinner and do some homework. But you sound like you've been doing this for a while. What did you start out doing all this level of stuff? Because you're talking about stuff, and I'm like, how do I get from where I'm at to there? Where did you start?
I had a photography business before this business, so like wedding photography. I also did real estate photography, but that was more like what do you call it? Private contractor, 1099 contractor. And they had systems and spreadsheets I had to fill out for invoicing and all of that. And I had to keep my calendar straight, so I knew like what address to show up to and special requests from the realtor, the homeowner. So I mean, this stuff is just like it was like general business admin, and I had to translate it over when I started doing
the real estate.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I'm less concerned
similar
about that and more about like I guess I won't know what I won't know until I know it, right?
Well, are you going to places where you can actually meet people that you need to follow up with? Because you got to get people in the funnel first before any of these follow-up tips will work.
I've really just started doing that like in the last month or two, because I'm a green because I bought my first spot. I kind of did things backwards. I bought my first thing and then I got involved with people.
Oh no,
so
that's
the last 2 months.
That's normal. It gives you some credibility to have your own stuff and to have used your own money. So I think most people do better starting that way. But I would say start with a notebook. Just start writing it down, and you can have these slides too. These Google tools, they're free. You don't have to get the Google Business Suite to get access to these. These are all just part of the free native tools. I tried to just do stuff that was free on here.
I hate spending money. I'm all for free.
Yeah.
Let's go free.
And I do use paid tools, but I will use a paid tool before I hire a person for sure. Like I'm always going to go for the IT solution before, and then payroll would be last. And I'm at the point now where I really need to hire someone, and I'm just like barely hanging on with my fingernails, and I'm going to have to finally.
You should give me a call at a different time, because I do sell business automation software. It's very useful for what you do.
That would actually be great, because like I said, if I can get a monthly fee versus hiring a VA, I'm always going to
we could get you a bookkeeper to do all your categorizations, reconciliations, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
All the
my husband does
stuff that people hate.
My husband does automations for software development, and this is like, he doesn't do any of this kind of stuff. So I'm like, oh, dude, you're an automations expert. You should help me. And he's like, I don't know what you're doing.
It seems like there's a lot of people in those fields, in the real estate field. I feel like a lot of my coworkers.
I would say the operators do well.
What's it called? Like I'm on the sales side, so I'm not quite as intelligent as the programmers. I just know how to talk to people. But those skills are very transferable, I feel like.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I was a marketer before, like a photographer marketer, and I was sitting at a capital raising conference and they were talking about like how to have a website and how to talk to your avatar and how to follow all this stuff. And I was like, wait a second, I already do that in my current job. And so that's why I was more naturally kind of drawn to capital raising rather than say asset management, because this stuff, like I'm not good at it and asset managers have to be good at this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, what should be letting me run their deal, right? So I decided to focus on the marketing and the capital raising, which is where I'm better. These things I have to force myself to do, and I'm still not very good at it. But this is what keeps my head above water.
Brandon has a
Makes
question.
sense.
Yep.
Brandon, he said, Brandon said, ask a question. Should you build a relationship, then go into business, or go into business, then build a relationship?
I will tell you what you're supposed to do. I'll tell you what I do. You definitely need to build the relationship first. Having a business partner is kind of like having a baby, you're getting married. And so you need to make sure that the people that you know that are going to be in there with you, and you're going to take them through the same things like get in a fight, have something bad happen and see how they react to it. I think that's one thing that the benefit this club has given me, because like, let's say, Crispy, I'm going to call you that forever now. He and I have been working together for, I don't know, it's probably been a year now, but we're not technically business partners. But because I've been working with several people in the club for well over a year, I know if I was to start a fund like tomorrow, who would be my business partner, right? Because we've been working together and I have people even outside of the club that I can ask as well. So yes, definitely meet people and have a relationship first. Sometimes that doesn't work in a joint venture when somebody's bringing in a big old chunk of cash and they're good at something. We had a commercial appraiser in one of our deals, and they were bringing in the most of the capital needed to do the deal, and we needed to get the deal done. And so in that case, you figure them out and you help them figure you out and you get the job done, right? Read some communication books and get good at like conflict resolution and mediation and those types of things. And then you can go into business. And then I wanted to show you, where is it?
Can I ask a question about you? What questions to ask to ferret out what color somebody is?
Right here. Oh, what color somebody is? Ask
Yeah.
them about themselves and give them a compliment. And how they react to that. Do they talk about themselves? Blah, 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 me, which I do. That's how you know I'm a red. Or are they going to shift the focus to you? If they talk all about themselves, they're red. If they talk all about themselves having fun, they're a yellow. If they talk all about you, they're either blue or green. And if they talk a lot about emotions, they're a blue. And if they just talk about you or ask you a lot of really technical questions, they're green. So introverts are green and blue, extroverts are red and yellow. And then you have like me, like I'm an extroverted introvert. I'm an introvert who likes to talk, but I don't really feed off of being in groups. Like I don't get energized by being around in groups. I have to leave the group and then go decompress. Like I'm gonna have to watch TV for like an hour after this meeting so that I can go to sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean you're an ambivert?
That's the most relatable thing I think I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Hey, man, like that ambivert. We heard that before in Julie Holly's book club.
Yeah. And I thought I was an extrovert for a long time because I will take over any conversation I'm in. But then
it just means you have good people skills. It doesn't, because I'm the same way. I'm like, and that's why I like my job, because I get to work from home. So as soon as I'm done on the Zoom, I just shut up and I'm alone again.
Yep.
And that is where I need to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll go crazy. If I got to be in an office with people, I'll go crazy.
Yeah. And you can have an extroverted blue as well. People who just love other people and they're extroverted and they want to go out and serve other people. That's common. But they tend to just not be, they just tend to not be as like about themselves. I have met blues who talk a ton though. Okay. So partnership considerations. Those are the questions you ask what color people are. Ask them about themselves and see where that goes. Give them a compliment and see if they accept it or reflect it or just take it, Okay, partnership considerations. These are the legal stuff. This is what you are going to fill out with your partners when you are going to send this to your lawyer, and then he's going to use this to draft your operating agreement. This is how you work with a variety of people that you might not know that well, because you're going to get it in writing before anything starts. And the course of this negotiation will tell you a lot if you are mixed up with the wrong partner. So my attorney actually gave this to me. I had to reformat it because it was ugly, but other than that, it's pretty much what he gave me. And he's no longer my attorney. He is only just having one client anymore. But this tool, my new attorneys, they love it. They're like, I've never seen this before. This is so handy because we're just checking off all of the important stuff. And then they use this to draft our operating agreement from their boilerplate document. Also, you can buy a template, an operating agreement template, and then use this questionnaire to then fill out your own template and then send that to your attorney. And it'll cost you like a couple, I don't know, $200 or something crazy. If you do most of the work in your team, your attorney doesn't have to do that much. So when you're really, really pinching it at the beginning, you don't have any money, these kinds of things, as much as you can do for them, the better. But the real advantage of this is not saving money on your legal fees. It's really getting to know your partners very well during the negotiation process. And so this is a free link. I can pop in the chat as well. Hold on, let me grab that. And so anybody with the link can see this and feel free to use it. It is copyrighted by my attorney, even though it's not on there. So please don't reshare it. But it is free to use. You just have to be careful that you're not
Emma,
plagiarizing it. Yep.
David has a question.
Oh, yep. Go for it.
Do you have any horror stories from a partnership that went wrong?
Yes, I have some horror stories, but they're really not that bad. It's because I am taking on like the role of the team grandma when there's a dispute of some sort. And so even if two of my partners are fighting and it has nothing to do with me, I can get in the middle and sit down and say like, okay, let's talk this out. I like the book, Crucial Conversations, for the framework of how to do that. And I did have one team, I was like, y'all need to read Crucial Conversations. We had a group book club. That's
book.
probably the worst one I've ever been in. But at the end of that, even I would do a deal with every single one of those people again, even though they wouldn't do deals with one another. So I felt like that was the best outcome. We got through the deal. We made money. Wasn't a ton. We learned a ton. And I walked away feeling like I'd work with all of these people again. So I can't.
Somebody's asking, what's the link to the document? Where's the document?
There we go. This is the legal questions for partners. All right, just pop that in there. You can jump in there and use that. And then I'm going to come back over to this one. I find this notes feature on my Google Contacts to be extremely helpful by trying to kind of keep track of what's going on, because rich guys are us. Yeah. Obviously, I forgot about this screenshot. So the notes here are where you met them, what, anything you can think of, and do this immediately after meeting them. This is really useful at a conference where you're meeting like tons of people and they're handing you business cards and all that. Or after a RIA club, go home and fill this out while it's still fresh in your mind the next day, and then send everybody a text message or an email saying, hey, it was great to meet you at the whatever meetup. Would love to schedule a time we can get together and talk more about what you're up to. It's not about you. It's not about how much money you need to raise for a deal that's closing and you're freaking out. It's about them. And you just need to listen and have a conversation. Like, what are you working on? What types of things? What are your goals? Like, would you be looking more? Are you partnering, or what are you good at? Like, oh, and they're like, I just, whatever. And it's like, are you looking at putting in money and just getting mailbox money? You ask them a zillion questions. They will tell you what they're looking for. And then you can funnel them into the right box, either on your spreadsheet or just put a note next to their name on your notebook, or add a note here where you want them to be filed limited partner, potential partner, loan guarantor, whatever, because you need all of those things. So use that notes feature in your Google Contacts liberally. It will help jog your memory when down the road, the next time you talk. And then when you talk to them, you can always just keep adding more notes. Like every time you talk to them, you just put a new note at the top and it gives you a running of every time you talk to them. Most people try and do this with our memory. I'm totally guilty of that. I don't even use all of these tools as well as I could be using the tools. But the more you can get out of your mind and written down on paper or on here, the more success you're going to have with following up with people and raising capital or finding deals or whatever it is that you're networking for.
So you're saying that after you meet somebody, within 24 hours, you need to call them the 24 hours, or is it 24 to 40 hours? I heard 24 hours, I heard 24 to 40 hours.
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible, okay.
Yeah. And
in sales, we say 24 hours. That's your window. Outside of that, you might be in trouble.
If you're at a conference, it really should be that night. So even if you're staying out till 2 a.m. drinking with all of the new people that you just met, when you get back to your hotel room, log it, because the next morning, 9 o'clock, when the conference starts, it's going to come around real early. I know some people are sitting in the conference logging all their business cards they got the day before, just sitting there while the speaker's droning on. But then you're not in the back of the room networking with new people. So you really need to do it the night of the conference, or if at a RIA meeting, like when you get home. You're just not going to do it otherwise. You just won't. So know yourself well enough. If you're really organized and you might do it, but if you know you won't, then do it the second you have a moment, as soon as you get home or as soon as you get back to your hotel room. Or you get off the call. That's what saving Zoom chats are for. You save the Zoom chat and you just have them, and then you don't do anything with them, right? Log them, get them logged like that day. And this is why I need some help, because it's gotten to the point where I can't keep up on it anymore. Okay, Canva, one of my favorite things. Wow, who did your graphic design? In Canva. They have ebooks, they have PowerPoint presentations, they can do Instagram reels. Like you load your photos in, it transitions and even music, and you can do all your social media, everything, and it saves. I am a graphic designer, okay? I can make Photoshop do magic tricks. I have not used Photoshop in years because I use Canva. So there's no need for this type of stuff that we are doing. There's no need for Photoshop. You can buy a pro Canva account that will do even more than the free one. And the only time I ever even open Photoshop is if I have to do like some serious cloning and cloning somebody out of a photo or cutting myself out. And Canva, the pro Canva even cuts you out of a photo. So the templates that they have are ready to go. Don't screw them up. Don't mess with them. Just copy exactly what they did. If you don't have a graphic design background, don't get creative. Just replace what they did with your thing. I'll tell you, bad graphic design. There's one thing I want to show you, like this North Carolina deal. You guys gotta check this out. Where is the first one? This is the one that Chris redid for this deal. It's pretty, right? Like it looks good. And it speaks to the kind of person that our avatar, the kind of person we want to work with. And we were given the sponsors a tough time because the pitch deck they gave us to pitch looked like this.
Oh, she hit the wrong button. So she hit the wrong button. So how's everybody enjoying so far? Everybody got a lot of information from this? Hey Tiffany, how you doing? Calamango, how you doing?
Man, I always leave here with more information than I know what to do with.
And she's great.
Yeah.
Clearly, she loves to teach.
Yes. I think she hit the wrong button.
Good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand. So I don't know if she should come back on. I hope she's come back on. So can you put your camera on, please?
Yeah.
Can you put your camera on, please? I can't see you, but there you go. Fez, put your camera on, please. Calamango, put your camera on. David, put your camera on, please. Nancy Cruz, Brandon, Courtney, please put your camera on so you can take a picture, please. Well, thank you, Tiffany. Oh boy, had to bribe you.
I was laying down.
Oh, okay, that's right. Nancy, thank you. Brandon, Yang. Hey,
This camera don't work.
Okay, here we go. Everybody smile. Hey, David. Oh my gosh, again. Hold on, here goes Emma. Hold on.
Oh, wait, here she comes.
Here she goes. Hold on, this is okay.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Emma, take a smile, Emma, smile. Camera shot. I'm not gonna Photoshop this.
I'm not photoshopping nothing.
So you can tell you what before continue what you're saying, Emma, about finish what you're saying.
Oh no, I was talking about the pitch deck that we got from our operators. Looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. It's just not, this is not good graphic design. Right. And so I was like, dudes, are you serious? Like, I got to go try and like sell this investment with this deck. So Chris redid it. Just if you don't know anything about graphic design, I have templates I've made for pitch decks that my partners have used on other deals and they ruin them. I'm like, oh my goodness, this looks terrible. And so just do what Canva tells you to do. Just do what Canva says, where you are and just using their templates and change them as little as possible. All right,
Good
last
to
thing.
know.
Virtual assistants, I think we've all heard tons and tons about virtual assistants. I think the most important thing to point out is you want someone full-time, project-based, part-time, by the hour, and do you want them to be a native English speaker or not? Do you want them to have an American accent or not? And so you're going to hire different virtual assistants depending on what you need. Here's one I like. This one was an American. All the entire staff was American. They're more expensive, $20 an hour instead of like $7. So, but just make sure you know what you're trying to hire for and that you have really clear standard operating procedures before you hire a virtual assistant, and then have them standardize what it is that they do, make really good notes and videos and stuff. So when they leave or you have to hire someone else, you have your standard operating procedures in place that you can just immediately onboard someone else into. So I've used a lot of virtual assistants, but I don't have like a full-time helper. And that's what I'm talking about. I need to hire like somebody who's at least part-time, like just helping me out with all my admin stuff. Because it's just, I have a few things I could do before hitting that point, but I'm getting
all that manual entry just makes life not as fun.
Yeah. And they're, if they can't do it, you're like, oh, this isn't going to work. That's most of the reason I haven't hired a VA, because there's so much stuff that is just knowledge-based and not task-based, and it changes. So I'm struggling to come up with like exactly what I want them to do. So I'm working on that. Okay. And then the content creation hardware. The first thing is on your phone, you see this lens on the back of your phone? There's fingerprints on it all the time. Like you can see how many fingerprints, if you can see that. I got fingerprints all over it. Just wipe it off. Like the first thing you do, just pick up your phone and just wipe off the lens. Your pictures will be 10 times better just by wiping your lens off. So start there, start with what you have. If you want to go a little farther than that, Canva will do a lot of your stuff for social media or email marketing headers, things like that, right? But if you want to do a little bit more, like you want to record a podcast, beyond podcasts, you want to record some YouTube videos or some Instagram reels or things like that. LinkedIn and Instagram and maybe YouTube are like where everybody's saying they're raising the most money right now. So if you want to get on social media, you don't have to. There are ways to do it where if you're just really good at following up and meeting people at meetups and stuff, you don't have to do any content creation. But if you are inclined to do that, get yourself a couple tools. My little video light here, right? It just sits on my computer and it lights up my face. I've got my microphone here for podcasts. Get yourself a selfie stick, just basic stuff. Just to make your content better. Sound is the most important. If you have poor sound quality on your videos, they're very difficult to watch. So focus on the sound first. If there's no sound, then Canva and photos wiping off your lens are fine. The next step up would be get your sound sorted out, and then your image quality it comes last, frankly. So you don't need a nicer camera or any of that until your sound is really good. And then, oh yeah, here's the business card scanner. I used this one for a while. It scans it straight into a Google Sheet. It does have you paid, like once you get to a certain number of scans, you have to start paying the monthly fee. It really, really works. And the thing I really like about it is it goes straight into my spreadsheet. And I don't know any other card scanners that do that. You have to export it and then import it to the spreadsheet. And it's a pain in the butt. This automatically uploads to my Google Sheets. So I really do like this app right here. I haven't used it for a while though, since I switched to the QR. So I'm not sure how up to date it is, but that was my favorite one before I switched over. Anyway, so those are the tips on how to find the right person. And then once you find the right person, how to follow up with that person. So wanted to just make sure we're having a good discussion, questions, and like, what are you doing that's working? What are you struggling with that maybe somebody in here has a solution for? And then we're way over time. We're at 6:30 right now. So if you guys need to go, you can. I need to take my kids apparently Christmas tree shopping because they broke my Charlie Brown tree. They came in here. They're like, Mom, we go Christmas tree shopping.
I have a question. You know what? I'm struggling with the CRM thing, right? What happens is I've all the numbers on the papers all over the place, right? And I'm struggling. I'm not a typer, right? I cannot type, right? I mean, I'll be here forever and a day typing in names, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
So
there's a VA service that you pay them per business card and they type it in for you. So you scan the business card into the app. Can't remember the name of the app. You scan it into the app, and instead of it automatically recognizing it, it sends it to a live person who will put it into your database and tag it and and CRM it for you.
No, it's not. It's this. These are numbers on paper. Like you said, write on a notebook.
Yeah.
So that's the same way. So I'm looking to use HubSpot because I was using Contactually before, and Contactually is business. So I got to use. I'm looking to use HubSpot. But you said that there's another one you said that was better than HubSpot. This is something.
Yeah, Active Campaign is more for automated campaigns. And so HubSpot is more of your traditional customer relationship manager, whereas Active Campaign is a CRM and an automated email marketing system. And they have like ebook templates that you can write your lead magnet on. Like it's really because if you're going to raise money, your list is king, whether your list is an email list or your audience, right? You have to be able to reach out to people. If you're going to send them an email, say, hey, I got a new deal, especially if it's 506B, like you don't have your list organized and you're doing your first 506B.
Done.
You're dialing for dollars. It's terrible. So, well, everybody would love to just be able to send out an email, invite people to a webinar and oversubscribe. Like that's really just not going to happen. Even for people who've been doing this a while, those are the rare exceptions. Most people are doing some amount of outreach. Yeah. Yeah. I oversubscribed is my new word, my new business word for this year. Cause I'm like,
Now, Brandon asked a question. Books. Do you have any books that you can recommend? Do you have any books that you can recommend? Brandon? Yeah.
For like what topic specifically? For communication or for business organization?
Brandon, what topic? What are you talking about, Brandon? Business.
I like the personal MBA is a reading list of the top 100 business books, and it's updated annually. It's a free list, and I will go and get the stuff off of my library. Like I have an online library card, and if they don't have it, which they normally don't, I just buy them on Audible and I just go through them. So those 100 books, I haven't read all 100 of them because some of them don't really apply to me, but they have some really great books on like systems designs. The one on systems from a few years ago when I first started, like I could only find it in like a university bookstore, like to check out of the library, right? Like some of them are kind of obscure, but for the most part, the personal MBA has just business management books. And it's fantastic. As far as capital raising, my favorite one is Hunter Thompson's Raising Capital for Real Estate. I'm getting my way through Matt Faircloth's, but I just don't think it's as technical. It's better on where to find people and how to talk to people, whereas Hunter's is more focused on like the systems that you need to following up and how to do your marketing and how to talk. He talks about avatars and stuff like that, but Matt's is better on just the human side of it, and Hunter's is just better on the whole structure and system. And there's another one I'm just starting to read. I know somebody who does capital raising as a business for university endowments, and it's called Getting the Money. And he says it's his favorite, but he hasn't read these others. So I haven't read that one yet. I'm just starting it.
Is the Money by
it's a woman. Her name is
Susan Lassiter.
That sounds right. Yeah. You got
that is an excellent book on raising money, because she tells about, just like you talk about being yourself, be you, be a thing. She tells about she goes and meet people in flip-flops and shorts, and that's it. She said, be a thing. And I like you said, you draw people to you who you are. Because you can be try to be cute and kind if you want to, but when the curtain goes up, they're gonna see who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
And they can tell. That's one of the reasons I try to stay away from narcissists, is because they tend to tell you what you want to hear, and you don't really know who you're talking to, and they will eventually come around and backstab. So I don't want to get into a business partnership with a narcissist. I can handle a lot of other stuff, bipolar disorder and some things like that, but narcissism.
How do you figure out who the narcissists are, though?
I actually went down a rabbit hole on this like maybe 10 years ago. My friend was getting divorced and her husband, she was calling him a narcissist. I was like, what does that even mean? And so I just went down the rabbit hole. It's tough, but there are some particular warning signs that I just really look out for. If I notice, but I think the important thing is to be able to distinguish narcissism from autism, because they oftentimes will look very similar because there's a lack of empathy. There's a general, but narcissists are typically much more charming. So if you have somebody who's really, really, really charming at the beginning and like love bombing you, and they make you feel like so special and like $1 million, they're not all narcissists. Some of them are just really nice, right? But I am paying attention at that point. If somebody is just not socially awkward at all, and they really are just so kind and they just make you feel so good about yourself, you know, I'm not that great, thanks, but that's a big red flag.
So it was Susan and Last of the Lions. It's called Getting the Money.
Yeah. I haven't started that one yet. That was just recommended to me by a professional money raiser. So I'm finishing Story Brands right now. And then once I'm done with that, I'll switch over to Getting the Money. So I'm glad that you liked it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Good.
I loved it. Just I got to put this stuff in place because, like you said, if you don't have your numbers, your phone numbers in place, even I even had issues like just with calling people, following up with the Meetup.
Yeah, that's what teenagers are for. That's what your teenage kids are for. You know how the IRS is always telling you to hire your kids? That's the kind of stuff.
My kids are not teenagers.
Yeah. I have a lot of kids. I have a lot of labor force. My kids are I hate to say it, lazy. I would never want them to hear me say that, and you're recording this, but they are definitely not at the point in their lives where they have strong work ethic. My oldest is in engineering school, and so she has grown beyond that and is now a very hard worker, but she's just too busy to help me, and the others are getting there. But some data entry, if you need that, you know, go to Fiverr, figure something out, hire somebody, or just schedule some time into the calendar, force yourself to do it. But it's probably the most important thing that you could be doing with your time as a capital raiser, even though it's data entry and it sounds like, oh, I should be hiring somebody to do this. Either hire somebody to do it or make yourself do it. It has to get done. Absolutely has to get done. So if you cannot do it because you have dyslexia, my son has a learning disorder called dysgraphia, where he can't write. Like he doesn't know. It's like dyslexia, but with writing, and it's kind of debilitating. And so he just needs a scribe or like dragon speak or something like that. So what are your weaknesses? If you're struggling typing and you're not doing it, it's like that. It has to get done, and you have to figure out what that looks like.
Thank you.
So, would you be willing to set aside time, like, let's say you go to 2 networking meetings a week, you know, one in person and one online. Could you say, like, for 1 hour afterwards, I am just going to sit down and crunch this out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can do that, definitely.
Yeah. If you're a disciplined person and that works, and if after a while, or you lose, you're doing really well and then you lose the habit, recommitting at that point, usually, you know, like it's not going to work and you need to hire someone.
Okay. Well, you know what, Emma, I want to say thank you for coming on tonight. Right. I appreciate you taking time for your family. You've been dropping gems and spreading knowledge dust all over the place here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you again for coming on, and I appreciate your time again.
Yeah. Awesome. If you want more information about the North Carolina deal, it's a 506C, and we're taking joint venture partners if you want hands-on. You do limited partner or JV. So that's what we're working on right now. And that's another example right there. Always be raising money, even though you don't want to.
Right. And to all who attended, appreciate you. Thank you for coming on tonight. And I want to say have a great day.
You too. Thanks for having me. We'll talk to you soon.
Ciao.